Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Frames for Thought podcast. My name is Alex, and with me as always is
Mark.
And today we're going to be talking about the Oscars, award shows, film festivals, all those sorts of goodies. Our likes, our dislikes, do they matter? Should they matter? Is it important? Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy, because here we go. Award shows. They're not really my thing. I remember being a little kid and the excitement about, the Golden Globes or the Oscars coming on TV. My parents would be really excited, and then that would get me hyped up to want to see it and watch it, and wow, all the outfits, and oh, that's a cool award, and what's that movie? I'd never heard of that movie before, which still kind of seems relevant to this day.
Especially this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I've never been that into the Oscars. I remember watching them a little bit as a kid, but my mom never really cared about them, so we didn't really watch them too much. The only thing I really remember from watching it when I was younger, and this wasn't even me as a kid at this point, I was older at this point, was when Woody and Buzz Lightyear gave out an award. And so having the 3D models in real life, quote unquote real life.
Right, and yeah, there was that one time that Shrek was in the audience.
Oh, right, yeah. Shrek was there. Yeah, I remember that. So stuff like that I kind of remember, and that stuff's kind of cool. But overall, I'm not a big fan of the Oscars, and I know it's kind of heresy to say that as an actor, because it seems like every actor watches the Oscars all the time. But I don't know if that's because they actually like the Oscars or they just want to know what's going on in the business at the time. Because if this year's any indication of people liking the Oscars, we're clearly not a minority. Because it's dropped something like 58% viewership from last year. And that's huge. It didn't even crack. I think it's just under 10 million watchers this year.
Wow.
Which is it's an all-time low. So we're definitely not in the minority, but there's definitely a lot of reasons why that could be the case.
The only reason I know that any movies, films, animated pieces, whatever, have even won an Oscar is because it shows up in my news feed the next day.
Yeah, and that's really it too, right? I know for me specifically this year, there's only a very small handful of films that I knew were nominated that I knew about before the Oscars. I think a lot of people going in this year had no idea what was being nominated and for what until Oscar time. And I actually think in a lot of ways that's beneficial. That's one of the benefits of the Oscars. I know for me that there was lots of films I didn't hear about until they were Oscar nominated movies, and then I checked them out, and for the most part I liked most of them. This year's a bit of an exception. I don't understand a lot of the films this year.
Even last year when, the pandemic wasn't in full blown, stay-at-home mode, a lot of the movies that were being announced as a front runner or something like that, I'd never heard of, but I guess that's just kind of going back the years, right? Because there's so many movies I remember being well, where did that movie come from? Where was that movie? I didn't get the chance to see that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Oscars, and I think for a lot of people who just casually like movies, and this is why I actually think that's the big reason why the viewership was so low this year, is because casual watchers of movies don't see a lot of these films that were nominated. They just don't care.
Especially with the stay-at-home being with all of the streaming services, and a lot of them are going to be behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just a movie you can go watch for $12. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a brand new exclusive coming to a streaming service and you want that premium early access, it's $30.
Yeah. And
right?
a lot of people...
I mean, I sort of get that because it's literally buying a copy of the movie, but in a limited release, right? You don't buy it to own it. You buy it so that you can watch it early.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here's why I'm always, and this is maybe because I'm an old man, but I'm always going to physical media slightly more than streaming, just because when I pay for it, I get to keep it.
I can relate to that in a little bit, because when I'm doing art, right, I do digital art,
Hmm.
but there's something about a pencil and a piece of paper that the visceral feeling, the experience of having that physical contact with my art, making something physical is special to me. And that's not to say, I can't make digital art and make a print of it and then be like, haha, there it is, the physical copy. It's something different, like especially when you get into like Copic markers, or you're doing oil paints or acrylics, that kind of thing. Like if you make a mistake, there's no control Z.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, the physical media, you like having the actual movie.
Well, I mean, like, so I was looking at watching Mortal Kombat, right? And they want me to pay $25.99 for it, so it's gonna end up being like $28. So I pay for it, and then what? I can just watch it whenever I'm streaming at home. Like, if I buy a DVD of it or a Blu-ray of it, and I have a portable Blu-ray player, then I can watch it whenever, wherever I want. I'm not limited. I just realized as I was saying that the counter argument would be you can watch it on your phone, you can watch it on your tablet, you can do a lot of stuff too. So I guess you do get to carry on a bigger library, but then you don't get the special features like you would on a DVD or Blu-ray, which is something I actually really enjoy. If I really enjoy the movie, I'll watch the behind the scenes stuff. I'll watch the director's auto commentary. I'll do all that stuff because I enjoy the film.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
That's
I want to
some
know.
of the best stuff, especially if you're an industry insider. Like if you're an animator or an actor, you get all of that behind the scenes stuff. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I think if you're any kind of content creator and you're not watching the director commentary or the behind the scenes stuff on your favorite films that like inspired you, I think you're missing out on helping yourself get to that next level to create the things you want to create.
Absolutely. And I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here because we're breaking a little bit away from the award show.
Yeah, already,
thing right
yeah.
now, already. But when they were making The Witcher 3, they had to do a lot of motion capture. As it's pretty normal with AAA games to be cranking out a large number of motion capture data for the games. But they made a bunch of trailers, pre-release trailers, like cinematics, and one of them was called Killing Monsters. And you can watch this on YouTube at the little teaser for the game. As an animator, I watched the behind the scenes for that particular teaser trailer, and I was like, yes, get me in there. Like that's what I want to see. That kind of a performance from the actors in the suits translated into the raw and then cleaned up data. Because you see it happen in real time with the actors, but then because when you bring it into 3D software, or really any software these days, you have a virtual camera and you can intensify the action with the camera, to make a hit look like it hurts more or something like that. Give it more oomph.
They can have see like the teeth fly out kind of thing.
Yeah, well, to see the teeth fly out, but like, close-ups of facial expressions on 3D models and stuff like that, right? Like you can really kind of dive in there and get into that. And so if you haven't checked it out and you want to get into animation, that's one of the things, especially if you're going for game animation, definitely check that out. Okay, award shows.
Yeah, so I got disillusioned by them completely a few years back. I just graduated from studio. One of the directors I met while at studio, I'm not going to mention him now because I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, but he was actually a really big inspiration for me about like learning my craft and becoming better as an actor. And me and him had a talk one day because I just ran into him at I think it was like a Fringe Festival show. We both saw the same show and we talked after. And he told me the story of he was part of a judging committee that was doing like a quote unquote like local Oscars where they watch all the shows and they pick like the same thing, like best show of the year, best actress, best actor, best lighting, best costumes, all the same stuff you kind of see at the Oscars, but just at a theater level, a local theater level. So he's telling me about this experience he was having, and he went out and he saw every single show that he was supposed to see because they gave him like a list of shows to see. He saw every single one from beginning to end. Like even if he hated it 10 minutes in, he sat through the whole thing.
Maybe it gets better.
Well, and that's right, because like he actually told some stories of like, yeah, like this show got way better in the second act. Like the first act was terrible, but once the second act happened, it turned the entire show around and became one of his favorites of the year. So he goes in with the other judges, and this is where they're going to sit there and like pick their best of the best of the best. And as they're discussing it, he realizes that the majority of the judges there didn't see all the shows, first of all, and didn't see them entirely. If they didn't like the first act, they left an intermission, regardless of like this was supposed to be their job or not. you're picked for your local theater to judge the year of theater, and you're not even going to put like the time and effort into it. So I don't believe an academy of film watchers are doing the same thing when you have a whole bunch of 3 hour long. I mean, sorry, I believe they're doing the same thing, especially when you have 3 hour long films that you have to sit through and watch. Because in my opinion, not all the movies showcased at the Oscars are enjoyable. Like you have some
I'll
gems in
agree
there
with
for
that.
sure. Like there has been like Oscar movies I've tried to watch, and sitting through like 15 minutes of it, I'm like, oh wow, I really don't enjoy this, so I turned it off. But then like one of my favorite films is like didn't even I don't think it got nominated for Oscars. I know it was Golden Globe nominated, and it's my favorite film, and I don't think it won anything. It just got nominated for a bunch of stuff. So I mean, like again, you find some gems when you watch these award shows. But if the judges aren't going to put the time in, how can you actually assess properly? Like, oh yeah, this person is the best actor, this person's best actress, this is the best, this is the best that. If you're not going to give your full attention to the things you're supposed to be watching.
Right. And I'm going to branch off on what you said there about how like it was your favorite movie, but it didn't win anything. Right. That I think resonates with a lot of people where there's like, why isn't my movie nominated? And the idea is, does it have to be? Like, does it matter that it doesn't win anything? Can you still enjoy the movie if it doesn't win an award? Of course you can. This is going to go a little bit into probably one of our next topics a little bit as well, but like movie rating sites or like the critic sites, I'm not going to name any, but where there's like a critical rating versus like an audience rating or something like that. I'm going to give an example. The World of Warcraft movie came out in theaters, right? And there's a lot of hype around that movie, like a huge production budget and this and that. You go see the movie and it's a World of Warcraft movie. I don't know what you're expecting. Like this movie isn't made to be an Oscar frontrunner. Or if it was, I mean, that's not really a great decision out the gate. I remember leaving that movie and thinking, if that movie wins an award for anything, it should be sound design. Like the sound and the sound effects when an orc got hit or something like that. It was good. It was crunchy. It had punch to it. But I mean, I'm not going to go see World of Warcraft and think, yeah, that's for sure the one that's going to clinch it this year. Or like even a Godzilla movie. You're going to see it because it's Godzilla. Yeah. Or Power Rangers, it's because it's Power Rangers. You're going to see these ensemble movies. Not every movie is made to be an award-winning movie.
But again, though, this kind of goes to something I said earlier, where I said the casual movie watcher doesn't care about Oscar movies. Like you mentioned just now, Godzilla. In the last 5 months, what two films have been the most hype films coming out that people were excited to see and were very happy to see? Godzilla vs. Kong, and Mortal Kombat.
I don't know, man. Godzilla vs. Kong could be kind of cool.
Oh, I know. Don't get me wrong. I think they're both awesome films. They're great. But that's the kind of stuff that the audience is talking about. And that's the kind of stuff that won't get seen at the Oscars. If it does, it's going to get nominated for something like visual effects, and then it's going to lose to something else because that's typically what happens.
And so to the casual viewer, that doesn't really matter. But I mean, should it? No, I don't think so.
Well, and this goes to my personal big fundamental flaw with the Oscars in general is art is subjective.
Absolutely.
That's all it comes down to. So to sit through however many hours long these things have become and hear people talk about things about films you don't care about or topics you don't care about in general, because that's another big criticism about the Oscars is how not movies it gets.
Yeah, it becomes kind of like a little bit of a political stage.
I remember when Joker came out, and I remember I saw that in theaters, and my first thing was if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't win for Best Actor, I don't know what the hell is going on at the Oscars, because I don't think there'll be a performance that outdoes that. And so I defended Joaquin Phoenix that entire year or however long it took to get to the Oscars, just no, he's going to win it. That's the best performance. He wins it, I was hoping he would, and then he goes on and talks about the dairy industry. And it's what does this have to do with you putting in the work into this film? I'd rather hear you talk about that than talk about your gripes with the dairy industry. It doesn't, as an audience member, that turns me off. And you were someone I was super supporting at the time. And so
yeah, I think they see it as an opportunity to get the biggest stage possible.
No, yeah, like even like again, like this last Oscars, lowest viewers so far at 10 million. You still have 10 million people hearing you talk about whatever subject you want. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's definitely a time and a place, but
Oh, yeah.
I think if you're trying to make an award show that's celebrating the artistic merit of your craft, it should be about the artistic merit of your craft.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember Matthew McConaughey winning, and I think it was for either Dallas Buyers Club or Interstellar. I can't remember, but like he just talked about his family, like thanked his family, and then talked a little bit about the craft, and it was like that's all you need to do.
All right, all right.
I mean, like to me, that's all you need to do. Jeff Bridges did the same thing when he won for Wild Heart.
Crazy Heart?
Well, Crazy Heart, that's what it was, not Wild Heart. It was Crazy Heart. Thank you. When he won for that, yeah, he just had like a very casual, just like, oh, thanks everybody, this is great, and like you don't have to push messages when you win awards. Just like win your award, thank everybody, because again, and I'm not saying this because I don't think you have the right to say these things. I'm saying it because people are tuning out of the Oscars, and if you go look online to see what people are saying about the Oscars and why they're not watching it, that's a big reason why people aren't watching it. If you want to keep your fancy award show going, maybe change your tune a little bit. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some pleb. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, I'm just some game animator. These are just our opinions.
Yeah, and they're all just opinions. And I mean, I'm that type of person where even though I'm not a big fan of the Oscars, I would never take the Oscars away from anybody. If you love the Oscars, I love that you love the Oscars. Keep watching them.
Yeah, and like a lot of people are really happy when Oscar season comes because they have those like work Oscar pools, and it creates this it creates a community. There's a community event that kind of comes with the territory. But you're right, like all the power to those people, but it just isn't my cup of tea.
No, me neither. And I mean, I think that's true with a lot of people. This year has shown us that less and less people are watching it. Yeah, I just think it's so hard in my brains to justify awards for art. And this is coming from somebody who has won awards at art shows. So
yeah,
like it's hard in my brain to really justify it for people. I mean, it feels good to win. Like it feels really good to win, but
get that recognition.
Yeah, you get the recognition, but like in the end, do you really need it? Like one big thing I've learned over the years is that like be happy with you and the work that you do. It doesn't matter if the entire world likes it or the entire world hates it. If you're proud of what you've done, that's all you need to do. Be happy with yourself and your work. You don't need recognition for that.
That's so great, and that's such positive advice, but that's also something that's learned.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Coming right out of animation school, you want everybody to look at your stuff and you want everybody to love it. I'm sure it's the same with acting. You want people to watch your audition tapes or whatever, and you want people to be like, man, Mark, you killed that. Like that was good. Like that's what you want.
Yeah.
And then it's over the grueling, however many decades that you start to realize it's like, yeah, but that's just, that was the bottom of the curve, man. It just went up from there.
Yeah, so, and I mean, because what I've learned. So when I was in acting school, I had one teacher in particular who I'd love to talk to on this show. Actually, she was very much. I didn't understand this until way later. But in school, she would always say, "Stand up for your art, stand up for your imagination, stand up for your creativity." And I never understood what that really meant at the time. I thought I did, but it wasn't until I got out of theater school and I started training in film acting, where my film teacher would tell me, like, it doesn't matter what they want, like, are you happy with that work? And then that's when it really clued into me. It's like, oh, they were both saying the same thing. It's about my satisfaction with the job I've done. Because, like, in the end, that's all you can do. Because, like, when you leave school, and I'm saying this for, like, art as well, I'm going to say this for everybody. When you leave school, you still have that mentality of make teacher happy. You still have that mentality of, like, get the A+. But that's not
whatever the director wants.
Yeah, exactly. And the Oscars is just like another big thing of that, I think, for a lot of people. They think that, oh, if this movie won, then this movie has to be good. This director has to be good. This costume designer has to be good.
I wonder if that helps. It has to. I just thinking about it now, it has to. Where it's like if you become an Academy Award winner, you are vetted for perhaps maybe more choice. And what I mean by that is if you're a director, maybe you're handed more choice in the kind of movies that you're given, or if you're an actor, you're given more of the kind of roles that you want. You know what I mean? Like,
But just look at the trailers of films, right? From Academy Award-winning
you're right. You're
director,
right.
blah blah blah. Like that's a big thing for a lot of people. It's like, oh, this guy won an award for this, so it has to be good. That's not true. Again, art is subjective. It could be crap. It could be amazing, but it's all subjective. So yeah, I'm on the boat where I don't care if I ever see the Oscars ever again. But like I will say that I think the biggest takeaway that I personally get from the Oscars is here's a list of films that I haven't seen before, and now I want to go see them. That's like that for me is the best thing. Like Father, which Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor this year for. I didn't hear about that film until the Oscars, and now I want to see it. I want to see it really bad because I love. I was just say I love, but like I'm a big fan of stories that are very simple. You take a complex concept like your father getting dementia, and then just do that. Because my favorite film is Doubt, and that's a stage show that they made into film. I think it's an amazing movie, and I think for me it's an actor's film. So if you're an actor, you should really watch it. And I'm going to guess that Father is like that too. So I can't wait to see it and kind of give my own perspective of it. Another thing that I think a lot of people are turned off by the Oscars is just how selective they are with the films that they're going to look at. So, for example, my two favorite genres of film are horror and kung fu movies. You don't see horror and kung fu represented very much in the Oscars. Kind of like what you were saying earlier with Warcraft. Like, horror films have a lot of great cinematography, have a lot of great sound design, and they never get the recognition that they deserve for it. Now someone's going to be like, oh, but The Exorcist. Yes, one film in like however many years. Like it's not.
But I think to play devil's advocate here, there's also a nomination process that they have to go through, right? Like they have to promote their film and people have to buy into it, and then, like they.
Well, from my understanding of it, studios just like push a whole bunch of films at the Academy and go like, we want to nominate these films for these things. So if the studio doesn't do it, then yeah, it's the studio's fault. But I do think there has been horror films that have been pushed that just get completely ignored because they are horror films. Because there's a stigma around horror and how it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of teenagers getting hacked up in the woods. And it's like, well, it's not. Like that's one aspect of it, but there's a whole bunch of other aspects of horror that exist.
Yeah, and this goes back into the whole art is subjective thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I am going to diverge here. I'm going to go into film festivals because
go.
one of the big pushes when you graduate animation school is what can you do after school? If you're not ready to dive into the work industry right yet, you can. One of the things they show you how to do is to push your film onto festival circuits, how to get your film in front of a lot of eyes. So if you think that your film is better suited to like a more niche art crowd, then you should consider pushing it in front of a festival audience, because then that might open up other opportunities for you to get a very selective position,
So are there like
animation
studio
field.
heads and like other like directors and stuff at these festivals that you can get
I'm
noticed at?
sure there's all kinds of people, like people, it's people like to go to the movies. It doesn't matter who they are, like Steven Spielberg likes to go to the movies probably just as much as, my brother or something, right? You know what I mean? Like they're people. And so if you're into that kind of an art crowd and, there's a festival coming to town and you see it as like an interesting night out to get a little bit of culture in and something, you're going to go. Yeah. And so you get that art crowd who is expecting that more fine art film or art piece, film piece, what have you, so you're going to get a little bit more of an artistic lens or an empathetic eye coming from that kind of an audience, I feel, the festival crowd. Right. And again, this isn't my cup of tea. Like when I made my student film, it was about a rat that mutates into like part fork so that he can eat the leftovers in the fridge. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to put that in a festival circuit, 'cause I'm just learning how to do the craft. But if it was something that I had done now, like if I had dumped a bunch of my spare time in my evenings, my weekends, into making something that I feel has a powerful message and is meaningful, put it out into the artistic community to see if it gains any traction, that's different, right? I'm not making them for the same purpose, right? And see, my student film is coming out of a place of necessity. It's like I have to be able to do these skills. These are core competencies for me to be able to work in my industry. And it serves as your reel after you graduate. And so if I were to like send my reel out now versus like a film that I did, like the comparison is totally different because you're getting like high octane Lego stuff juxtaposed with more conversational Star Trek-y deep stuff. And then as far as short films and stuff go, I still only have my student film. I haven't done any short films or anything since then.
Yeah.
I don't have that drive for the festival crowd. And this is that whole artist subjective thing. This whole episode is about subjective art.
But I mean, I think that's what award shows and the Oscars and all that is, though. Like, in the end, that's what it all boils down to is, like, what do you like? What does other people like? It's like, yeah, and it's funny you say that because in theater school, at the end of studio, they make you do this thing called solo show, where it's a show that you write and you put on yourself, and it's just you on the stage, and it's whatever you want it to be. It can be a dance.
It's the Calculon one-act play.
Yeah. Calculon. Yeah, it's a Calculon's one-act play.
Shout out to Futurama.
And again, like, it can be a dance, it can be singing, it can be something original you wrote. Like, it has to be original, actually. It has to be original, whatever it is. And I remember I made mine, and I love mine. I think mine's really fun. I think mine's really funny. Did I ever show you mine? I have it on DVD.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Next time we're together, I'm going to show it to you. Like, mine was just a big tribute to a bunch of stuff that I love. What I did is I made a world where I became Chris Farley. I used that as the catalyst, and then I just put in a whole bunch of, like, gags for myself that work on the other audience, but they don't understand why it's in there. So for one thing, to to represent the Coke habit, I would have bags of Coke fly in on string. And like, I made it look really cheap and really terrible on purpose because I love shitty B horror movies and shitty B sci-fi movies, and they just look super fake, and that's what makes them
Bruce
fun.
Campbell.
Exactly. So in my brain, the idea of like a stick coming out from the side of the wings with a little string on it attached to a baggie full of white flour, that to me was hilarious. And I was like, this is a tribute to shitty B movies, and I don't care if anyone gets it. This is what it is.
Brings you joy.
Yeah, so for me, my solo show was just about like, here's a whole bunch of stuff that I love, and hopefully you enjoy it. Another thing I want to talk about, I guess I'm just kind of obsessed with this idea of subjectivity, right? Your casual audience is interested in very specific fun things. Like, they want to go out and be entertained and have fun. And I don't think a lot of award shows will offer that. I'm glad that we do have, like what you said with the film festivals, that give people that option to kind of show the artsier stuff, because I would argue my top 2 films are artsy films. The third one would be the argument of like, some people will find that artsy, but I think it also appeals to more casual people too.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are they?
Okay, so number 1 is Doubt, which I've mentioned earlier. Yep. Number 2 is Birdman. And then number 3 is The Big Lebowski.
Nice.
Yeah, so a lot of people like The Big Lebowski. It's pretty universal. Like, there's a few people who don't like it, but majority of people really enjoy it.
If I'm being completely honest with you, I've only seen The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, the other 2 are like more artsy fartsy movies. Birdman, I saw specifically. I don't think it was because of the Academy Awards. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I saw it because I was like, okay, it's supposed to be quote unquote one take. It's not one take, but it's supposed to be one take. It's Michael Keaton running a theater company, and he used to play a superhero in the films. So I was like, okay, cool. I want to check this out. This sounds interesting. I watched and I enjoyed it.
It played to your interest.
Exactly, right?
And it delivered.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed it. Don't feel like, as an actor or an animator, as a director, as a writer, like, don't feel like you have to watch the Oscars. I do think there is some benefits in it, but I also think it's not necessary. As long as you're working on your craft and you're making your art the best your art you can make it, I think that's more important than trying to follow what the Oscars is telling you to follow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and because again, if like the audience watching it is telling us anything, they're not watching it. So go out and create your own stuff.
They're not watching it as much anymore.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
And I'll agree with, like, you don't have to. They're not. It's not like they're intentionally leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for you to follow. Like, like, this is the way to acting success. But you're right. Follow your own interest, and I'm gonna say that about animation as well because there are, some studios that are more prominent in the Oscars than
Hmm.
others, right? But that doesn't mean that those are the only good animated movies out there. Or even let's just dive into another realm about internet
Yeah.
cartoons, right? When Newgrounds kind of became a thing, like a portal for people to post their little flash animations, that blew up. That was huge because people thought that those were either really good, people really tried their hand at storytelling, or people got their start there. And I'm going to specifically name drop Ego Raptor here, who turned out to be Aaron Hansen of the Game Grumps later on. But when he started making internet cartoons and he was doing like Metal Gear Awesome or like Prince of Awesome, he was doing parodies of video games. And as good as something like Shrek is, and how funny Shrek is, because it is, like especially Shrek 2. For whatever reason, Shrek 2 will just
Shrek 2
have
is one of
me
the best sequels ever
laughing.
made, like hands down.
But with his little Newgrounds Flash cartoons, especially the like Metal Gear Awesome and Prince of Awesome, and when he's just doing these goofy little animations that are less than a minute long most of the time, like I am laughing so hard that I am crying most of the time, right? Especially the first few times you watch them. And does that mean that they're, worthy of an Oscar? Absolutely not. But does that mean that they're any less,
They
you
still have
know,
quality. They still have value. Yeah.
that's right. There you go. You're trying to find the words here. They're still worth something to me as an audience
Hmm.
member, right? I love those.
No, and I mean, like, and lots of people have come out of the internet world as well. Like Ego Raptor, like you said. There's Oni NG, who he's coming out with a video game is coming out right now that he animated for. Psychic Pebbles. Sorry, Psychic Pebbles. He just had a cartoon get a pilot on Adult Swim. Like Smiling Friends. And if you haven't seen Smiling Friends, go watch Smiling Friends. It's very funny. It is very funny. So like a lot of people could even like Sick Animation, who I'm one to talk because I'm terrible at drawing, but his drawings are not very well, but it's a style. It's a style that works like really well for what he's doing, and his stuff is very
Hmm.
funny, and he's very talented. So no matter where you go to do it, just put your whole heart into it, and it's going to work out. I mean, like what was that one? Sharks. Remember Sharks? Yeah.
Shokes. I do
I
remember
still think
Shokes.
about that like animation to this day.
But do you like also think about Don Hertzfeld, right? It's a
Yeah.
style. My spoon is too big. Right? Like you could argue that those characters are not well
Yeah.
drawn. But that's not the
Yeah.
point. The point is that they're not well drawn and that they are meant to be these rejected animation advertisement characters,
Yeah.
right? It's the Don Hertzfeld way of
Yeah.
working, right? It's his style. He even did a Simpsons intro.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did. Yeah.
So I mean, you don't have to be the best
Yeah.
artist to develop a style or to develop this or that. You just got to do you, like you were saying earlier, right? Follow your interests. If you're interested in that like Attack on Titan style camera move or the Etano circus with the missiles from Macross, like go for
Yeah.
it. Try it. It's hard. I'm still studying the Etano circus. I still don't understand what they're doing with those cameras. It's crazy. But if that's your passion, go for
Yeah.
it. You don't have to adhere to the Pixar style or the Disney style or the French animation of like Gobelins and stuff like that. Although I will admit, like a guilty pleasure, I do really like French animation.
I mean, the French, when it comes to like art, even like with films and movies and stuff, they have some beautiful stuff out there that we never see. And again,
Yep, there's some really really
that's a
cool
plus
stuff.
side to the Oscars that they mention foreign films that you maybe never heard of that are really good. So
Well, I mean, if you're an animator and you've never heard of Gobelins, go look it up. Like, just go see some of the cool stuff that they've done. Like, I don't even need to say more than that. You could just Google search French animation school. It'll come up. I promise.
yeah,
And, you'll get to see some of the student work that comes out of there. It's really cool and stylistically very pleasing
Yeah.
to me, right? This subjectivity.
and
So,
I mean,
I have this thought on my mind and I'm going to get it out before I forget it again. but it's about finishing your thought. It's some of the best advice that I got as an animator, as an artist when I was in animation school. One of my instructors, his name is Andy. He was very critical in a good way. You know, he was our character design instructor, and he would tear you to shreds. You know, you would present your character for the week or the day or whatever it was, and sometimes you would nail it and you'd get praise from Andy, and you'd walk out of that room skipping out of that hallway being like, I fucking did it this week, you know. But another week it just wouldn't go so well,
Yep.
you know. But that's all part of learning. But what I'm getting at is one of the things that he said was finish your thought. And so no matter how good or bad you think your drawing is, once you start a picture, whether you're drawing like some really weird tooth fairy or like some ninja turtle or something, finish it, draw it all the way through, see it through. Once you start drawing the head and the legs, even if halfway through you're like, I hate this drawing, finish it. Finish your thought, because you're going to learn something from that drawing. You're going to learn what you don't like about this drawing and what you don't want to repeat, things that you can improve upon. And so anytime that I'm drawing a picture, I've recently been working on I'm trying to draw some Warhammer stuff right now. And that's, you know, you get wrapped up in the details and you miss the mark. And anyway, I'm still finishing my drawings. I'm finishing the thought. I won't take it all the way through to inks and color, but it'll be a finished pencil sketch, right? And so as somebody who's learning the craft, finish your thought, you know, like follow through. And I'm sure that the same thing can be said about acting, you know, like if you're in the middle of a routine and you make a mistake, just own it.
Acting is all about being honest with the moment and being honest with yourself and your character and everything. I know for me, and I can only talk about for me, when I'm doing a scene or I'm doing a monologue or whatever, and this happened a lot during my audition classes for film, is that I would go up and I would do it, and the whole class would rewatch it and then give notes, and you'd be the last one to speak, kind of thing. And I remember sitting there, I remember doing one, I was like, oh, this is trash, like this is the worst. And I sat down, and every other student was like, oh, that was really good, blah 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 blah. And then it got to me, and I was like, well, I thought it was terrible. Like, I missed the mark on this. I was too fast on this, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of went through everything I thought was bad. And then my acting teacher smiled, and he was like, yeah, I'm really happy you said that, because I didn't think it was very good either. And so I was like, okay, cool. So, like, there is some kind of, like, wavelength here of, like you kind of know for yourself if what you're producing or what you're creating isn't working. And it's sort of up to you to kind of acknowledge that. If you're just running through a scene or you're just going through a drawing just thinking it's the best thing you've ever made ever, I would say stop and kind of reevaluate what's going on, because you might have a little block in your brain that's kind of preventing you from really seeing the outside. I know I was guilty of that for a very long time, and it's the only reason why I'm criticizing people on it, because I used to do it.
That's where playback can help.
Well, exactly.
You, right?
I mean, like, when I get lazy when it comes to like acting and stuff, I catch myself doing it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, and then I'll rewatch it and be like, oh my god, what the hell? I can't send this. I gotta do something else. And then I spend another like 3 hours trying to wrap my brain around it for like a 2-line audition. But we really should just like focus back in on award shows right now.
Yeah, sorry, big tangent.
I mean, we're both guilty of it because we're just spitting our passions out. I have a question for you specifically with award shows, because there's this sort of criticism, and I think it's kind of true. When it comes to the animation category, it always seems like one studio wins all the time, regardless.
Yeah, I like this. This is all subjective again, right? You also have to look at the other films that are being pushed, right? Like what else is nominated and what other studios are pushing and what they want to be in the award show and in the award circuit, right? Like Pete Docter, you know, for his wins on Up, Inside Out, and just recently Soul, right? But also Andrew Stanton with Finding Nemo. You know, like there's Lee Unkrich for Toy Story 3 and Coco, right? So yeah, Pixar is definitely, you know, they're up there, but they're also producing movies that are, I guess you could say more, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Not as recognized,
not really thinky, I guess, is
okay.
what I'm thinking about. Like they're
heady.
substance heavy,
Yeah.
right? Like they cover topics that are not easily covered or haven't been explored in that way in animation before,
Mhm.
or at least not as a front running or like a big name studio. I don't know. They're definitely up there, but I mean, it comes down to what are the other studios doing too? Like what are they producing that's going to run up against this? And I don't know how the voting like I mean I understand, like everybody gets their first pick and then second pick but I don't understand how it works. Like is it based on storytelling? Is it based on artistic merit?
Well,
Is it
and that
based
was
on
actually the thing I was going to follow you up with is that do you think, because I personally think that just having best animation as a category is too vague. Like it's not, you have like claymation going up against like CG, and that
yeah, you like the Leica studio for like Kubo and the Two
yeah.
Strings versus some other big Pixar movie or something like that.
And I feel personally, for me, I feel that's unfair because I feel like they're two completely different types of films, but they're being categorized together because I guess like you have no other place to put a claymated film as opposed.
There would have to be more categories
Yeah,
opened up, I guess, if you want to like break it down like that.
because I mean, like
But
I can see things like, yeah, they should share for like best soundtrack and stuff like that. Like that would make sense.
yeah, best original score and
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's good.
screenplay and everything. I think that all works for them, but I just find it's really weird that the types of films that you'll see in animation are just so vastly different with like the medium of art. And so I just find it
Brad Bird got gets angry when people talk about animation in award shows and how in like the genre of animation because he talks about how animation transcends genre.
hmm,
It like animation can be a western, it can be sci-fi, it can be like horror. It's not just animation is animation is animation is animation. That's like saying an actor is an actor is an actor, or a director is a director, or a script is a script is a script, right? Scripts are not genre specific all the time, right? Like I mean, there are some scripts that are westerns and sci-fi and this and that and the other thing, right? And so animation, it could probably have its own award show. Maybe does have its own award show.
yeah,
Who knows? I
because I
don't
mean
know,
like
but like I
that to me would be
definitely
more
don't
interesting.
agree. I don't agree with all the winners throughout the years, but this is the subjectivity thing again,
Hmm.
right? When Frozen won in 2013, it was a smash hit. I remember leaving the theater after seeing Frozen and going, that was good because finally the girl doesn't need the prince to save her. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a girl power thing, and it was really cool to see on the screen because as somebody who's been growing up watching Disney cartoons and Pixar cartoons, television cartoons, what have you, all my life, you see that pattern growing up. Like you get it, the hero of 1,000 faces or whatever. And when Frozen came around and they kind of just were like, nah, she's gonna save herself, kind of thing. The whole sister thing is really really good. And there were a lot of really cool artistic innovations that were made on the back end of that as well, right? Like they developed Matterhorn, which is like a snow software that they used in Frozen, right? So that when the characters would walk through the snow, it would leave the footprints, and that the snow would break in a certain way, or it would move in a certain way, drift in a certain way. Elsa's magic when she would shoot out those spirals and the fractals, and don't even get me started on the way that light refracts through ice in her ice palace. Like there's a lot of physics that happen behind the scenes when you're talking about animation. Like it's not just we're going to build this here and it's going to look great because we're going to put a material and a texture on it. It's more than that. Like these textures have real life properties. And so when you refract a light through ice, it's going to behave like it should, right? So I mean, there's a lot of research and development that goes into these movies. But even I don't know, I don't think they kept it in the movie. But I remember Lino DeSalvo talking. He's the animation director on the movie. He was talking about how when they would speak, they wanted to keep the frozen breath
Hmm.
in the film, but they found I think at the time they found that it was too distracting, or like it took a little bit away from the scene, and so they got rid of that, but they did keep all of the breathing in the film. So when the actors are talking, you can hear them take a natural breath, or when they're singing, you can hear them take a natural breath, and that was an artistic choice because that's something that can easily be cut out,
Yeah, it's super easy. Yeah.
right? And so when we're talking about the awards and like certain films are winning more or certain studios are winning more, I this is where I don't understand how the voting works. Is it based on the R&D, the research and development, the storytelling, a combination of it all?
I mean, like, in my personal opinion, when it comes to animation specifically, I personally feel it comes down to a popularity contest a lot of the times. But I mean, I'm also very biased in that regard because, like, I'm a huge fan of like clay animated like film. I think like, the amount of work and effort and skill that goes into it is, like, in my brain, astronomical. Like, I think Kubo is one of the most beautiful looking films that's come out in the last like 10 years. But I'm biased in that regard, and this is again subjectivity, just because I have such a boner for clay animated films. I just really, really like them.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Like the stop motion stuff.
yeah.
I remember being really surprised when the Box Trolls didn't win.
Box
when
Trolls
the
is a
movie came out.
great movie.
Yeah, Box Trolls was really cool, and it was super original.
Yeah,
It lost out to Big Hero 6, but like this is that subjectivity thing. Sorry, this is going to be like literally the title of the episode.
but
I'm gonna call it
I think that's
Subjectivity.
important though to kind of like to like just kind of establish that like award shows are fine, but it's all subjectivity. It's
I promise you, if you gave me the printout of the Oscar winners that came from the last 20 years from animated films, I would get 90% of them wrong because my choice, like if I had to choose just based on my preference, I would get it wrong almost every time.
I mean,
Because the same year that Frozen came out, there was a French. Well, I don't know if it's French. I have to do the research now. But Ernest and Celestine came out,
okay, I heard of that one.
and it's beautifully animated, very storybook. It's got nice, beautiful animated watercolor textures with like ink and pencil lines, and it's gorgeous to look at from an animation or an art perspective. But it's up against Frozen.
Yeah,
And
but and again though, this goes to why I'm asking you about specifically the animation one because, like, yeah, is it about how beautiful it's animated, or is it about how good it is the quality of a film, or is it about
I don't know. There has to be more to it than just like, is it popular? Like
Yeah.
there has to be criteria to make your vote, and I'm certain that there's more behind the scenes that I don't know.
Oh,
And
I'm
it's not-
sure there is too. Again, like I kind of justified why I say I think it's a quote unquote popularity contest. It's just because my subjectivity is like, well, Kubo's really nice.
Kubo is really nice, but this goes back to almost the beginning of the episode where, to me, I liked Ernest and Celestine and I liked Frozen. The other movies that were being pushed that year were Miyazaki's The Wind Rises, Despicable Me 2, and The Croods, right? And I mean, those are all the animated films that were being pushed for an Oscar win in 2013. And I don't know all the stuff that happens behind the scenes or the criteria that Academy members get to vote or how they score their sheets or anything like that. But again, going back to the beginning, I don't care because I like a lot of those movies. Even like the year that Zootopia won, 2016, it was up against, that's the year of Kubo and Moana and like, again, there's good movies
and
there.
I mean you just say that too, right? And when it comes to like, and again, this is my confusion because it's animation, not story, not acting. It's animation, and so I go to like, okay, what in my mind is the best animated film? And so I would put both Kubo and Moana above Zootopia just because I like the lighting of it, I like the shading of it, I like the worlds they created. Zootopia is extremely interesting and it's extremely creative as well, but I just felt that those two on an artistic level outshine it. But again, what's like, are they picking Zootopia because of the message of Zootopia is better than the messaging in Moana and Kubo? Like, is that
Right, I have no idea. And I mean, I could probably look into the criteria and dive into that. I'm just going to put my 2 cents in there is that when I left Zootopia, it was like an animator's wet dream. Like Zootopia was so good.
so
from an
there's
animation
things that I
perspective.
don't understand as a non-animator then. That
And there will be things when I watch a film that you'd be like, wow, that actor did something. I'd be like, dude, he just, I didn't see that. Like there are things
he just
that you
sat
miss.
down in a chair.
My wife got so sick of me talking about Zootopia after we left because I was so curious about how all of the rigging and the secondary motion and the behind the scenes stuff happened.
And see, and like there you go, right? Like you're talking about the rigging and the stuff behind the scenes. I'm talking about like the story beats and the messaging. Like that's what I'm talking about, and that's why
Yeah.
like because in my brain it was like, okay, yeah, it's like it's not super original, but it is interesting. Whereas like Moana, I would argue it's not the like most original thing ever, but it was interesting enough that I enjoyed it. Kubo just blew me out of the water. I love Kubo. I'm just gonna say it. I love Kubo. I think it had everything going for it. So
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when it comes down to it, it's a bunch of Academy members, and they're all voting in their certain way, and they're going through their criteria, and they're picking their things. But as an animator, somebody who enjoys my medium, I enjoy the media. I enjoy animation, whether it's 2D, 3D, classical, or what have you, stop motion, claymation. Doesn't matter. I like it. If it's got heart, it's got character, it's got a little bit of fun, sass, and whimsy, I'm in, right? And I'm sure that you have criteria for films as well. It's like that's going to be a fun film to watch. Like even Mortal Kombat, right?
yeah,
is it coming out now?
it came out last weekend.
It came out last weekend.
Yeah.
So I mean, Mortal Kombat is something that I would watch,
Yeah.
right? That's something I would go to the theater for. But for something like I don't know, like Titanic, I'm not gonna harp on Titanic, but I mean I like if I had to pick between Titanic and Mortal Kombat, I'm gonna pick Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, no, me too.
Right? Like it just comes down to preference as a moviegoer or as somebody who watches animation. And I'm gonna say it again, the magic word of the night. Say it with me: subjectivity. Right? And so everybody has their own opinion on these things,
but I mean, but I think it's also important to say though, like in the argument of like Titanic or Mortal Kombat, both movies have value, both movies have an audience. It's
yeah. I was actually just about to say the same thing. Like just because Frozen won, or Zootopia won, or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse wins, or Toy Story, Shrek, whatever. It doesn't diminish the merit of the other people who were working on the other films. Mm-hmm. All the other films were equally as great in a lot of cases, right? Sometimes, in my opinion, better. Mm-hmm. But that's my opinion. And so I don't think, and this is why I gets kind of to the root of the problem with award shows being so subjective, is I don't think that there is a best, right? Like, to me personally, I don't think that there is a best. Maybe there's a standout, a breakaway, but it doesn't make it the best. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I had to sit through a film history class where people were toting how great Citizen Kane was. For its time, Citizen Kane was probably an excellent movie. Mm-hmm. To me, as an audience member today, it's boring.
I mean, I'm not going to talk too much on that because I'm the silly son of a bitch who still watches silent films from time to time. So, I mean, it's definitely
that's okay.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, like for me, when I go in to watch something like a Charlie Chaplin or like Nosferatu, I have to have a little switch in my brain. I have to turn and be like, remember now, like you're going into watching a silent film. You're going in to watch black and white, even just black and white. Like one of my, I would say top 10 favorite horror movies for sure is the original black and white Frankenstein. I think it's a fantastic film and I watch it every year, but I can understand why people don't like it. I can understand why people don't like black and white films in general. They're slower. They're not as much of a hit as we're used to now. But it's all about, again, it's about that acting and that storytelling and that pacing. And it's like, yeah, I can dig this. I can get into this.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that are going to play into your choice, right?
And I mean, like, just because I like Frankenstein doesn't mean I like Invisible Man. I mean, The Mummy, like the original black and white Mummy, I'm just going to finish with this last one. The original black and white Mummy, not a very good film, but has some really great imagery in it. Like some really spooky, fun imagery in it. So...
and I'll even take this about award shows into like other mediums. Let's even talk about video games, right? Just because the game wins tons of awards doesn't mean I want to play it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I might, and I might enjoy it, but there's a lot of other games that I play that I enjoy way more than that game. And I'm going to throw out just a really simple example, right? Like The Witcher 3, an excellent game, excellent narrative, excellent storytelling. You know, it's a great game. It won countless awards. Is it my favorite game? No. Have I played it? Yeah. Right? But you know what game I have way more fun playing?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little indie platformer called Broforce. To me,
Yeah,
that game is more fun. Because I'm playing it with friends and I'm laughing my head off because we're sabotaging each other when we're trying to finish the level as a team, and we never do. You know, like that is more fun. How many people play Super Smash Brothers?
Oh, too many.
You know, and is that game like just dripping awards?
I don't
think so.
I don't think so. No.
Right? And so this really does come down to the magic word of the day, but it shouldn't matter. I mean, you know, those websites that have movie ratings versus audience ratings, it doesn't matter. What are you going to the movie for? Is it a narrative that speaks to you? Great. You're going to enjoy the movie. I remember Ian McKellen did a movie a number of years ago where he played Sherlock Holmes, but like an aging Sherlock Holmes where he was starting to lose his mind a bit, right? I loved it. It was such an interesting take on Sherlock Holmes, right? Did a lot of people go see that movie? Not really. You know, if it speaks to you, that's great. And if it's an animated movie that you like, that's great. Art style that you like, great. You know?
Video game that you like, great.
Absolutely. Is it bringing you joy? You know? I just it comes down to the whole award shows and festival circuits and stuff. If you like it, I'm not going to take it away. Like you said, absolutely. Be excited about it. I know people who have been in the award circuit and are still actively pursuing the award circuit and the festival circuit, and they do some pretty cool stuff. I've seen their work, and I'm always rooting for them, you know, because I know them and they're my friends, and the work that they do I think is pretty cool, and the work that other people do is cool. You know, if they don't win versus somebody else, that doesn't mean I'm going to be like, oh, you guys didn't win. You guys suck this year. Boo. It's not like, you know, it's not the sporting event where they're winning Stanley Cups and stuff like that. This is art, like you said, right? And so everybody's going to have their preference. You know, some people are going to go to the Louvre and they're going to look at the Mona Lisa and be like, that's it?
Apparently it's very small. Like it's like a little picture.
It's very small. It's not like this big grandiose painting. You know, it's quite small. And a lot of people will go see that, and I imagine people would look at it and be like, so there's all the hype over this, huh?
Yeah.
But it's the subjectivity thing. Magic word of the day. I really wish I had like a siren so that every time we said it, something would go off. Like
a little button on our desk, like. I mean, I remember I took a girl on a date to the art museum here, and it's because she really wanted to go because she really wanted to go see a toilet.
I'll build on that. My wife and I went to go see. They had a Matisse exhibit at the art museum, at the art gallery. There were all these grand paintings that this Matisse artist had done. He was an impressionist painter, you know, very famous. But they also posted pictures from his sketchbook, and I gravitated right to those ones.
Yep.
I could, like, you know, it's really nice to look at the big pieces and see it in person and be like, wow, look at all that cool, look at the composition. And you could talk about art for hours, but when it was like he was doing the personal things for him, you know, like the stuff that he likes to sketch and just doodle in the pages, that is interesting.
Yep.
Right. So anytime that it's like, here's an artist's sketchbook, it's like, let me see that. Let's see what's in there. What dirty little secrets is he hiding?
Okay, my last little thing about an art museum. When I was in Ottawa visiting a friend, me and her went to the art museum, and we were both actors, and so we went and we saw like all the art and like all the stuff that was like, this is our feature, and I think it was like I forget what it's called, but it's like a big red line down a canvas. It's like huge, and that was like the big like, ooh, come see this exhibit. But we kind of found ourselves gravitating to this like out in the middle of nowhere part of the art museum, where if you went inside one room, there was a TV set up, and this person took clips of all of Meryl Streep's films and had Meryl Streep as all of her different characters talk to each other and have a conversation. And so
That sounds freaking
it was so
awesome.
rad. It was so rad. And then like next door did the same thing with Jack Nicholson. It's so
Amazing.
yeah, I remember like we spent like hours just like going from one to the other, one to the other one. Yeah, we spent a lot of time just going from one to the other, because we just thought it was so awesome. And I mean, like, of course, actors, that's the one that we gravitate to, and that's the one that we want to see. But I think we should wrap this up.
I agree. Okay, so let's finish on a few questions here, Mark.
All right.
So what is art?
Art is subjective.
All right, Oscars, yay or nay?
Um,
Nay.
yeah, I lean on the side of nay. Watch them if you like them. Enjoy them. If you, again, subjective, if you enjoy it, love it. But I would rather do my own Oscars with my own friends, where we just all talk about like our top 5 favorite films of the year. That'd
Maybe
be funner
something
to me.
to explore in the future. That sounds really fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do it again. Oscars, yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Yeah.
Awards and festival circuit, yay or nay?
To get your name out there, yay. But yeah, I'm gonna say yay. I'm gonna say yay.
Yay? I'm in the nay category. Just not my thing.
That's fine. Yeah.
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 All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Frames for Thought. Hopefully you'll join us next week. And thanks for listening.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. The Frames for Thought podcast uses royalty-free music courtesy of Track Tribe and RKVC. Thanks for listening. See you next time.